Captain Minho Park stood at the viewport of his ship, the resolute Dawn watching the stars drift past. He had been in space for 15 years now, but the view never got old. Behind him, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. They were good people, loyal and skilled. Minho trusted them with his life. His communicator beeped. It was a message from Earth, from Admiral Donghyun Choi himself. Minho opened it and read carefully. The Galactic Council was holding an emergency meeting. All member species were required to send representatives. Earth was sending Ambassador Yuna Kim, and she wanted military advisors present. Minho sighed. He knew what that meant. More meetings where aliens talked down to humans like children, more polite smiles while other species treated Earth like a backward planet that had barely learned to use fire. 50 years in the Galactic Council and humanity still sat at the kids' table. Set course for Council Station, Minho ordered. Best speed. His second officer, Commander Suji Kang, looked up from her console. Sir, that will take us off our patrol route. I know. But the Admiral wants us there. The journey took 3 days. When they arrived, Council Station hung in space like a massive crystal flower. Ships from dozens of species crowded the docking bays. The Telnorians with their sleek silver vessels. The Morgathi with ships that looked like living creatures. The Kartek with their pyramid-shaped cruisers. And there, looking small and plain, were the handful of human ships. Minho took a shuttle to the station with Suji and met Ambassador Yuna in the diplomatic wing. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. Dr. Hanali, Earth's xenobiologist, stood beside her holding a datapad. Captain Park, Yuna said, shaking his hand. Thank you for coming. What's this about, Ambassador? The Vrakesh Dominion. They've been expanding aggressively toward Council space. The border worlds are nervous. Minho frowned. He had heard of the Vrakesh. They came from the Outer Rim, a military empire that valued strength above all else. They had been quiet for decades, but recently they had been making moves. Claiming systems. Building fleets. Are we going to war? Minho asked. That's what we're here to find out. The council chamber was enormous. Representatives from 12 species sat in a circular arrangement, each on platforms that floated in the air. Humans had been given a platform near the back, as always. Not important enough for the front rows. The session began with the usual formalities. Then High Counselor Veth Mora, a Telnorian with pale blue skin and 4 arms, addressed the chamber. Her voice echoed through the space. The Vrakesh Dominion has violated 3 border treaties in the past month. They have militarized neutral zones. They have ignored our diplomatic channels. We must decide how to respond. Various representatives spoke. The Morgathi suggested economic sanctions. The Karthek proposed sending a delegation to negotiate. Everyone seemed to believe the Vrakesh could be reasoned with, that this was just a misunderstanding. Then Ambassador Yuna requested permission to speak. The chamber grew quiet. Some delegates exchanged amused glances. Yes, Ambassador Kim? Veth Mora said, her tone polite but dismissive. Yuna stood tall. Earth offers military support. We have battle fleets ready to deploy. We have Marines trained for combat operations. If the Vrakesh are preparing for war, we should prepare as well. The chamber erupted in laughter. Not polite chuckles, but actual mocking laughter. One Telnorian delegate slapped his knee. A Morgathi representative made a chirping sound that her species used to express amusement. Veth Mora held up a hand for silence. Ambassador Kim, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but warfare is not conducted the way your species understands it. The Vrakesh, despite their aggression, still follow the protocols of civilized combat. Capital ships engage in orbital space. Ground forces use approved weapons. Civilian areas are protected. Your species' history of total warfare, of nuclear weapons and scorched earth tactics, has no place in galactic conflict. With respect, High Counselor, the Vrakesh may not follow your rules. Another round of laughter. One delegate, a Karthek named Mothral, spoke up. Humans and their primitive projectile weapons. Your species still uses chemical propellants to launch metal slugs. It's quite adorable, really. Minho felt his jaw tighten. Beside him, Suji's hands formed fists. Even Dr. Hana looked angry, though she kept her expression neutral. Yuna remained calm. We have experience with aggressive opponents. Earth has survived wars that nearly destroyed us. We learned hard lessons. We're offering to share that knowledge. Thank you, but no, Veth Mora said, her tone making it clear the discussion was over. Should conflict arise, Earth will be assigned evacuation duties. Your ships can help move civilians from border worlds. That will be your contribution. The session moved on to other topics. Yuna sat down, her face showing nothing, but Minho could see the humiliation in her eyes. After the meeting, they gathered in a private conference room. Evacuation duties, Suji said bitterly. They want us to be space taxi drivers while they handle the real work. They don't understand, Dr. Hana said, scrolling through her datapad. I've been studying Vrakesh culture for months. They're not like the council species. They don't fight by rules. They respect only strength and cunning. Did you tell the council this? Minho asked. I tried. No one listened. They think all species follow their civilized warfare protocols. They can't imagine anything else. Admiral Dongyan's face appeared on the conference room screen. He had been watching the session from Earth. Ambassador Kim, new orders are being transmitted to all human vessels. We're to pull back from the border regions. Maintain patrol patterns in safe zones only. They're pushing us out, Minho said. Yes, the council has made their position clear. Humanity is not welcome in their military planning. Yuna looked tired. Admiral, what if we're right? What if the Vrakesh don't fight the way the council expects? Then a lot of people are going to die, Dongyan said quietly. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy will stop laughing at us. The meeting ended. Minho returned to the Resolute Dawn with his crew. They departed Council Station and headed for their assigned patrol route, far from any strategic systems. Far from anywhere important. 3 days later, everything changed. The alert came in the middle of the night cycle. Minho was pulled from sleep by his communicator's emergency tone. He stumbled to the bridge in his uniform, his heart pounding. Report, he ordered. Suji looked pale. Sir, we're receiving distress calls from 3 council worlds. Nefera Prime, Stella 7, and Morgath Colony 12. They're under attack. Pirates? No, sir, it's the Vrakesh. A full invasion fleet. They hit all 3 worlds at the same time. Minho felt ice in his stomach. How bad? The reports are confused, but from what we're hearing, it's bad. The Vrakesh aren't following any combat protocols. They're targeting everything. Military civilian infrastructure. The council fleets are responding, but they're taking heavy losses. Get me the council military channel. The channel was chaos. Panicked voices shouting over each other. Ships reporting catastrophic damage. Ground forces calling for help that wasn't coming. Minho listened for 10 minutes and understood. The council was losing. Badly. Dr. Hana appeared on the bridge, still in her sleep clothes. Captain, I'm monitoring Vrakesh communications. They're using tactics we've never seen from galactic species. Hit-and-run attacks. Targeting supply lines. Using civilian populations as shields. It's total war. Like human wars, Suji said softly. Yes, exactly like human wars. Minho's communicator beeped again. This time it was an official council transmission. An emergency summons to all member species. All available ships were to report to defensive positions immediately. No exceptions. No excuses. Even humanity's ships were being called to help. Commander Kang signaled the crew. Combat stations. We're going to war. As the Resolute Dawn changed course toward the battle zones, Minho couldn't help but think about the council session, about the laughter, about being called adorable and primitive. The galaxy had laughed at humanity. Now war had arrived, and Minho suspected the laughter was about to stop. 3 weeks into the war, and the Galactic Council was dying. Captain Minho Park watched the tactical display on his bridge with growing disbelief. 8 systems had fallen to the Vrakesh. 8 entire star systems with billions of people, now under enemy control. The council fleets kept fighting, but they were fighting the wrong way. Another dreadnought down, Commander Suji reported, her voice tight. That's the 3rd one this week. Minho shook his head. The council ships were powerful, more advanced than anything humanity had built. But they fought like it was a sporting match. 2 fleets would meet in open space, line up in formation, and exchange fire until one side retreated. Honor duels between capital ships. No ambushes, no tricks. Just raw firepower against raw firepower. The Vrakesh didn't care about honor. They hit supply convoys. They attacked damaged ships trying to retreat. They targeted medical vessels. They did everything the council considered barbaric and uncivilized, and they were winning. Sir, we're receiving a distress call, said Lieutenant Gina Bay from the communications station. It's from Nefera Prime, civilian frequency. Put it through. The voice that came through was panicked, breaking up with static. This is Nefera Evacuation Center 7. The Rakesh are bombing civilian shelters. They're using our people as shields. Council ships won't fire back because they might hit civilians. Please, someone help us. Minho looked at his orders on the screen. The Resolute Dawn was supposed to stay in the safe zone, far from the fighting. They were to maintain their patrol route and wait for instructions. Commander Kang, how far are we from Nephira Prime? Suji checked her console. 4 hours at maximum speed. But sir, our orders... I know what our orders are, but there are people dying. Set course for Nephira Prime, full speed. Yes, sir. The crew moved quickly. Private Taiyang Yoon, the youngest Marine on the ship, appeared on the bridge with his squad. He was barely 20 years old, but his eyes were steady. Captain, Marines are ready if you need us. I hope I won't, Minho said. But stay ready. The Resolute Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Nephira system. What they found made Minho's blood run cold. The planet was burning. Orbital stations were destroyed. And in space above the world, a battle was happening. 3 Council warships were engaging 6 Vrakesh cruisers. But the Council ships were barely fighting. They kept trying to get clear shots that wouldn't risk hitting the civilian areas below. The Vrakesh used this against them, positioning themselves above populated cities, knowing the Council wouldn't fire. This is insane, Suji whispered. It's what happens when you follow rules and your enemy doesn't, Minho said. He opened a channel to the Council ships. This is Captain Park of the Resolute Dawn. We're human. We're here to help. A Telnorian captain appeared on screen. Human vessel, stay clear. This is a military engagement. You're not equipped for this level of combat. With respect, Captain, you're losing. Let us try something different. Different? What do you mean? We don't follow your rules. And neither do the Vrakesh. Before the Telnorian could respond, Minho cut the channel. Suji, target that Vrakesh cruiser. The one hanging over the northern continent. Sir, there are cities below it. I know. We're not going to shoot at it from here. We're going to get close. Minho ordered the Resolute Dawn forward straight toward the Vrakesh fleet. The alien ships noticed them but didn't react much. One human ship wasn't a threat. They had bigger problems with the Council dreadnoughts. That was their mistake. Now, Minho ordered. Hard turn portside. All weapons on that cruiser's engine section. The Resolute Dawn spun like a fighter craft, not like a cruiser. Human ships were smaller and more agile than most galactic vessels. They had to be, because humanity couldn't match the raw power of alien technology. Instead, they focused on speed and maneuverability. The human ship's missiles struck the Vrakesh cruiser's engines. Not the main hull, which was heavily armored. The engines, which were vulnerable. The cruiser lurched, losing power. It began to drift away from the planet, no longer able to use civilians as a shield. Council ships, that cruiser is clear. Minho broadcast. Take the shot. The Telnorian dreadnought didn't hesitate this time. A massive energy beam lanced out and cut the disabled cruiser in half. The other Vrakesh ships turned toward the Resolute Dawn, angry now. 5 cruisers against 1 human vessel, but Minho was already moving. Suji, evasive pattern Delta. Taeyang, launch all drones. The ship dove toward the debris field left by the destroyed cruiser. Pieces of hull, engine parts, and wreckage filled the space. The Resolute Dawn flew through it like a fish through water, using the debris for cover. The Vrakesh tried to follow, but their larger ships couldn't maneuver as easily. Meanwhile, dozens of small drones launched from the human ship. They looked like missiles, and the Vrakesh targeted them as such. But they weren't missiles. They were decoys emitting false engine signatures and heat. The Vrakesh wasted shots on empty drones while the real threat moved among the wreckage. Target their communications array, Minho ordered. All ships need communications to coordinate. Take it out. Another volley of missiles, these ones nuclear-tipped. The Council had banned nuclear weapons in space combat decades ago, calling them unnecessarily destructive. Humanity had never signed that treaty. The missiles struck home and 1 Vrakesh cruiser went dark, its communications destroyed. Now the Vrakesh were confused. They couldn't coordinate. They couldn't use the civilians as shields because the Council ships were getting braver, seeing the human tactics work. And they had this annoying human vessel darting around like an insect, stinging them from unexpected angles. Another one disabled, Suji reported. Council ships are moving in to finish it. The battle lasted 2 more hours. When it ended, 4 Vrakesh cruisers were destroyed or captured. 2 escaped, jumping to faster-than-light speed. The Resolute Dawn had taken some hits, but nothing critical. Minho's crew had pulled off the impossible. The Telnorian captain contacted them again. This time his expression was different. Not dismissive, not amused, almost respectful. Captain Park, that was, I've never seen tactics like that. It's how humans fight, Minho said simply. We don't have the biggest ships or the best weapons, so we use what we have creatively. We take risks. We break the rules. Those nuclear weapons are effective and legal by our laws. The Telnorian was quiet for a moment. I need to report this to the council. What you did here, it changes things. News spread fast. Within days, every species in the galaxy had heard about the human ship that defeated a Vrakesh fleet. The Council Military Command, desperate for any advantage, began asking questions. How did humans fight? What were their tactics? Could these methods be taught to other species? Admiral Dongyun received an invitation he never expected. The Council wanted him at their war chamber, the secret facility where military strategy was planned. No human had ever been invited before. Ambassador Yuna watched from Earth as the political situation shifted. Species that had laughed at humanity's primitive weapons were now begging for human military advisors. The Morgathi wanted to learn about guerrilla warfare. The Karthek asked for lessons in asymmetric tactics. Even the Telnorians, so proud of their advanced technology, admitted they needed help. A week after the battle at Nephara Prime, Admiral Dongyun stood before the Council's war chamber. The room was filled with military leaders from every species. High Counselor Vethamora sat at the head of the table. Admiral Choi, she said, the Council has made a decision. We need your expertise. We need humanity's way of war. Dongyun laid out a datapad on the table. I've prepared a battle plan. It will stop the Vrakesh advance and allow us to push them back. Excellent. Show us. The Admiral activated the display. A holographic map appeared, showing the entire war zone. Then Donghyun began to explain. His plan involved feints and ambushes, striking at supply lines instead of military targets, using small strike forces instead of large fleets, psychological warfare, sabotage, all the things humans had learned from centuries of fighting each other. Halfway through his presentation, several council members stood up and walked out. A Morgathi general called the tactics disgraceful. A Karthek admiral said it was barbarism disguised as strategy, but High Counselor Vethamora stayed. She listened to everything. When Donghyun finished, she looked him in the eyes. Admiral, if we do this, we become like them, like the Vrakesh, like humans. No, Donghyun said quietly. You become like survivors. There's a difference between fighting dirty and fighting to win. The Vrakesh fight dirty because they enjoy cruelty. We fight hard because we want to go home. Vethamora was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. The Council gives you command of the 7th Fleet. It's damaged and demoralized. Many ships are barely functional, but it's the only force we can spare. I don't need the best fleet, Dongyun said. I need people willing to learn a new way of fighting. You'll have them. And Admiral, don't make me regret this. As Dongyun left the war chamber, he knew the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had been given a chance, not to fight alongside the Council, but to lead them. To teach them. To show them that survival sometimes meant getting your hands dirty. The Vrakesh had brought total war to the galaxy. Now humanity would show everyone how total war was really fought. Sanctuary Station was the largest refugee center in the galaxy. 17 different species lived there. Billions of people who had fled the war zones. It floated in neutral space, protected by ancient treaties that declared it untouchable. A place of peace where no weapons were allowed, no military forces permitted. The Vrakesh were coming to destroy it. General Narration stood in the command center of her transport ship, studying the reports. Intelligence said the Vrakesh fleet would arrive at Sanctuary in 5 days. They had ignored all diplomatic protests, all threats, all pleas for mercy. They were going to kill everyone on that station as a message to the galaxy. How many people? Nari asked her aide. 3 billion, General. Maybe more. The station is overcrowded. People are sleeping in hallways and cargo bays anywhere there's room. 3 billion. Nari closed her eyes. She was a soldier, had been fighting since she was 18 years old. She had seen terrible things during Earth's Siberian insurgency, a brutal civil war that lasted 6 years. But this was different. These were civilians, children, families. Where's the 7th Fleet? She asked. Admiral Park is leading them towards Sanctuary now. He has 30 ships. The Vrakesh have 90, 30 against 90. Nari had faced worse odds, but never with so many lives at stake. She opened a communication channel to Admiral Minho Park, who had been promoted after his victory at Nefara Prime. Minho's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired. General Shin, I saw your request. You want to land troops on the station before the Vrakesh arrive? Yes. I know it violates the sanctuary treaties, but those treaties are about to be violated in a much worse way. I need to turn that station into a fortress. The Council will object. Let them. By the time they finish objecting, it will be too late. Nari leaned forward. Admiral, I can't stop the Vrakesh in space. That's your job. But if any of them make it to the station, I need to be ready. Minho nodded slowly. How many troops do you need? All of them. Every Marine, every soldier. We're going to fill that station with defenders and make the Vrakesh pay for every meter they take. You'll have them. I'm sending you 5,000 Marines. It's all I can spare. 5,000 soldiers to defend 3 billion people. It would have to be enough. General Nari landed on Sanctuary Station with the first wave of troops. The station's administrator, a Morgathi named Kelthrin, met her at the docking bay. He was furious. You have no right to bring weapons here. This is a sanctuary, a place of peace. Not for much longer, Nari said, walking past him. In 4 days, the Vrakesh arrive. They will kill everyone here. My troops are the only chance you have. The Council will protect us. The treaties mean nothing to the Vrakesh. Now get out of my way. I have work to do. Nari's soldiers spread through the station like water. They studied every corridor, every room, every possible entry point. Sanctuary Station was huge, a city in space with multiple levels and sectors. It would be impossible to defend conventionally. So Nari didn't try to defend it conventionally. Sergeant Sung Ho, she called to one of her squad leaders. He was a veteran from Nefara Prime, tough and smart. I need your team to start building choke points. Collapse some corridors. Block others. Force any attackers to use the routes we choose. Yes, ma'am. What about the civilians? Move them to the core sectors. The deepest parts of the station. It'll be crowded, but better than being exposed. Over the next 3 days, the station transformed. Human engineers built barricades from cargo containers. They rigged explosives in key corridors, ready to seal off sections if needed. They set up overlapping fields of fire, positions where defenders could support each other. They even dug tunnels through the station's maintenance shafts, creating hidden passages for troops to move unseen. The civilians were terrified at first. Then they started helping. Morgathi engineers shared their knowledge of the station's systems. Karthik families cooked meals for the soldiers. Telnorian medics set up emergency hospitals. Even children helped, carrying supplies and messages. Lieutenant Gina Bay arrived with a squadron of human fighters. She was famous now, known for her daring tactics. She walked up to General Nari with a cocky grin. General, I brought you 30 fighter craft. Small, fast, and mean. Where do you want us? Above the station. When the Vrakesh come, your job is to be a nuisance. Don't try to win. Just distract them, hurt them, make them angry. I can do angry, Gina said. On the 4th day, the Vrakesh arrived. Admiral Minho watched them drop out of faster-than-light travel on the edge of the system. 90 warships all heading straight for Sanctuary Station. His 7th Fleet had 30 ships, some of them barely repaired from previous battles. The Council had promised reinforcements, but they were still days away. This is going to be close, Commander Suji said from her station. That's optimistic, Minho replied. Suji, send the signal to Captain Hyunwoo. Tell him it's time. Far behind the Vrakesh fleet, hidden in the debris of an old asteroid field, Captain Hyunwoo Song smiled. His stealth ship, the Silent Vengeance, was designed for one thing, sneaking into places it didn't belong. He had 6 other stealth ships with him, all waiting. Light them up, Hyunwoo ordered. The stealth ships fired missiles at the rear of the Vrakesh formation, not at the warships, but at the supply vessels and tankers that followed. The Vrakesh had learned to protect their supply lines, but they weren't expecting an attack from behind, from ships they hadn't even detected. 3 supply ships exploded. 2 tankers were disabled. Suddenly, the Vrakesh fleet had a problem. They needed those supplies for a long battle. Some of their ships peeled off to hunt the stealth vessels, reducing their numbers. 84 ships now instead of 90. Better odds, but still terrible. The Vrakesh fleet advanced on Sanctuary Station. Minho's 7th Fleet moved to intercept. The 2 forces met in the space between the outer planets and the station. The Vrakesh expected a traditional battle. They didn't get one. Minho had learned from his victory at Nefara Prime. The Seventh Fleet didn't form up in battle lines. Instead, ships scattered in all directions, making themselves hard to target. They launched swarms of drones and decoys, filling space with false contacts. They used the gravity wells of nearby planets to slingshot around, coming at the Vrakesh from unexpected angles, and they used the one advantage humans had: they were willing to sacrifice. Ramming speed, Minho ordered his helmsman. "Sir, you heard me. Evacuate all non-essential crew to the escape pods. Then ram that Vrakesh carrier." The bridge crew stared at him. Commander Suji spoke carefully. "Captain, that will destroy the Resolute Dawn." "Yes, but it will also cripple their flagship. One ship for one of theirs. That's a trade we need to make." The crew moved quickly. Escape pods began launching from the Resolute Dawn, carrying most of the ship's personnel to safety. Minho stayed on the bridge with a skeleton crew. His ship, the vessel he had commanded for years, accelerated toward the massive Vrakesh carrier at the center of their formation. The Vrakesh noticed too late. They tried to shoot down the Resolute Dawn, but human ships were small and fast. The carrier turned to evade, but ships that large couldn't turn quickly. At the last second, Minho and his remaining crew jumped into their own escape pod. The Resolute Dawn hit the carrier at a significant fraction of light speed. The impact was like a nuclear explosion. Both ships were destroyed instantly, along with 2 nearby Vrakesh cruisers that were too close. 4 enemy ships for one of theirs. The mathematics of desperation. Lieutenant Gina led her fighters in a mad dance around the Vrakesh fleet. They weren't trying to destroy the enemy warships, just annoy them. Fighters swooped in, fired missiles at sensors and communications arrays, then darted away before the big guns could target them. It was like mosquitoes attacking elephants. Individually insignificant, but collectively maddening. Some fighters didn't make it. Gina watched 5 of her pilots die in the first hour. But they had done their job. They had distracted the Vrakesh, kept them from focusing their full firepower on the Seventh Fleet. The space battle raged for 6 hours. Slowly, inevitably, the Vrakesh pushed through. They had more ships, more firepower. The Seventh Fleet fought brilliantly, but numbers told the truth. The Vrakesh reached Sanctuary Station. That's when they met General Nari. The first Vrakesh boarding parties breached the station's outer hull. They expected frightened civilians and light resistance. Instead, they found killing zones. Human Marines opened fire from prepared positions. The corridors became death traps, every corner hiding defenders, every doorway covering another. The Vrakesh tried to push forward, but General Nari had designed the defenses like a maze. Enemy troops would advance down a corridor, only to have it collapse behind them, cutting off their retreat. Or they would enter a room and find all the exits sealed, trapped with Marines who attacked from hidden panels in the walls. Sergeant Sung-ho led his squad through the maintenance tunnels, appearing behind Vrakesh positions to attack their rear. The enemy never knew where the next assault would come from. The station's civilian population, hiding in the core, could hear the sounds of battle echoing through the walls. Explosions, gunfire, screams, but the defenses held. For 6 days, General Nari held Sanctuary Station. Her 5,000 Marines faced waves of Vrakesh boarders, sometimes outnumbered 10 to 1. The war changed after Sanctuary Station. The Council had been defending, reacting, trying to survive. Now, with humanity leading their military, they were ready to attack. Admiral Dong-hyun stood in the war chamber, looking at the holographic map of Vrakesh space. 30 star systems, all controlled by the enemy. The Council had never dared to invade them. It wasn't how civilized species fought wars. You defended your territory, negotiated peace, maybe took back what was stolen, but you didn't invade the enemy's homeland. That changes today, Dong-hyun said to the assembled military leaders. We're going to strike into Vrakesh territory. We're going to hit them where they live. We're going to make them feel what the border worlds felt. A Morgathi general shifted uncomfortably. Admiral, such aggression, it goes against our principles. Your principles are why you are losing, Dong-hyun replied bluntly. The Vrakesh don't respect principles. They respect strength, so we're going to show them strength. Over the next weeks, human advisors spread through the Council fleets. They taught alien crews tactics that made many uncomfortable. How to use asteroid fields for cover. How to fake retreat to lure enemies into traps. How to target civilian infrastructure that supported military operations. That last one caused arguments. Many Council officers refused to strike at anything that wasn't purely military. Dongyun understood their reluctance, but he was firm. "We're not targeting civilians," he explained to a group of Karthak captains. "We're targeting power plants, factories, and supply depots that happen to be near civilian areas. Yes, there will be disruption. Yes, civilians will be affected. But war is about breaking your enemy's will to fight. That means hitting their ability to support their military." "It feels wrong," one Karthak captain said. "It feels human," Dongyun corrected. "And right now, fighting like humans is the only thing that works." Commodore Minji Park, Admiral Minho's sister, arrived from Earth with a fleet of experimental weapon platforms. She was a scientist first and a soldier second, but her creations were deadly. Mass driver systems that could bombard planets from orbit, antimatter mines that could destroy entire fleets, AI targeting systems that predicted enemy movements with frightening accuracy. The Council had banned many of these weapons. Humanity had never signed those bans. "Are you sure about using these?" High Counselor Vethamora asked Minji during a demonstration. "They're excessive." "No weapon is excessive if it saves your soldiers' lives," Minji replied. "These systems let us hit harder with fewer ships. That means fewer of our people die. Isn't that worth it?" Vethamora didn't answer, but she approved the deployment. The first strike into Vrakesh territory targeted a system called Rathkor, a major supply hub. Admiral Minho led the attack personally, commanding from a new flagship. His fleet jumped into the system and immediately scattered, refusing to form the battle lines the Vrakesh expected. Captain Hyunwoo and his stealth ships had been there for 3 days already, mapping defenses and hacking into enemy systems. When the main fleet arrived, Hyunwoo's ships activated viruses in the Vrakesh communications network. Suddenly, enemy ships couldn't talk to each other. They couldn't coordinate. They were blind and deaf. The attack was brutal and efficient. Minho's ships targeted the orbital factories first, the ones building weapons and ammunition for the Vrakesh military, then the fuel depots, then the command centers. In 4 hours, the system's ability to support the war effort was destroyed. A Vrakesh admiral tried to negotiate a surrender, offering to withdraw his remaining ships if the humans would stop the bombardment. Minho refused. "You didn't offer our people that option at Nefera Prime," he said coldly. "You wanted total war. This is what total war looks like." Dr. Jiwon Cho, a linguist who specialized in Vrakesh culture, made a strange discovery during the occupation of Rathkor. She was monitoring enemy communications when she noticed something odd. The Vrakesh weren't angry about losing. They were excited. She brought her findings to Admiral Minho. "Sir, I think we're misunderstanding something. The Vrakesh aren't fighting because they want to conquer us. They're fighting because they respect us." "Respect?" Minho frowned. "They've killed billions. To them, that's a compliment. Vrakesh culture values strength above everything. They've been expanding for centuries, crushing weaker species, growing bored. Then they encountered humanity, a species that fights like they do. Cunning, ruthless, willing to do whatever it takes to win. They've been studying Earth's history for years. All our wars are tactics. To them, we're kindred spirits. That's insane. It's their culture. And, sir, there's more. I intercepted a communication from the Vrakesh warlord to his commanders. He called this war the most glorious conflict in generations. He's enjoying this." Minho shared this information with Admiral Donghyun. The implications were disturbing. The Vrakesh weren't trying to destroy the Council because they hated them. They were doing it because they were bored and seeking worthy opponents. And now that humanity had shown up, fighting back with equal ruthlessness, the Vrakesh had found what they were looking for. "This changes the strategy," Dongyun said. "If they respect strength, we need to show them overwhelming strength. Break them so completely, they have no choice but to acknowledge us as superior." The Council fleet, now with humans in leadership positions throughout, pushed deeper into Vrakesh territory. They took system after system. Each battle saw new tactics, new tricks. The Vrakesh could never predict what humans would do next. Sergeant Sungho, now a legend after Sanctuary Station, led special operations teams behind enemy lines. They captured Vrakesh commanders, extracted intelligence, and sabotaged key installations. His methods were harsh. He used pressure tactics, psychological manipulation, and threats that made Council observers uncomfortable. But they worked. Lieutenant Gina continued to push the limits of what fighter pilots could do. Her squadron executed maneuvers that killed as many pilots as enemy fire did. But the survivors became the best in the galaxy. She personally destroyed 16 enemy capital ships, often by ramming damaged fighters into critical systems at the last second before ejecting. But the cost was high. Humanity had entered the war with 200 ships. After 6 months of fighting, only 90 remained. Human casualties were triple those of any other Council species. Families on Earth received death notifications daily. The public began to question whether the war was worth it. Ambassador Yuna, now working closely with the Council leadership, addressed Earth's parliament. "We're losing people," she admitted, "more than anyone else. But we're also winning. For the first time, the Council is pushing the Vrkesh back. Every system we liberate, every planet we save, that's because of human tactics and human sacrifice. We can't stop now." The Parliament voted to continue the war, but it was close. During the occupation of a captured Vrkesh world, something unexpected happened. Dr. Jiwan arranged a meeting with a captured Vrkesh general named Krathmore. She had been studying him for weeks, and he had been cooperative, even friendly. Now she had a question for him. "Why did your people start this war?" she asked. Krathmore laughed, a harsh barking sound. "Because we were dying of peace. My people are warriors. For 300 years we've had no worthy enemies. We've grown soft, weak. Our youth have no battles to prove themselves. Our culture was fading. So you attacked the Council to find a challenge? Yes, but the Council species are children playing at war. They have rules, protocols, honor that makes them predictable. We would have crushed them in a year." Krathmore leaned forward. "Then you humans arrived. You fight like we do. You understand that war is about winning, not about fighting fairly. For the first time in centuries, my people face equals. We're not equals to you. We're better." "Prove it," Krathmore said with a grin. "That's what the warlord wants. A true test. If you can defeat us completely, we will accept you as superior. That's our way." Jiwan reported this conversation to the command staff. It sparked a huge debate. Some, like Admiral Dongyun, wanted to destroy the Vrkesh completely. Others, like Ambassador Yuna, saw an opportunity. What if humanity could turn the Vrkesh from enemies into allies? They respect strength, Yuna argued. If we beat them, really beat them, they'll follow us. 2 warrior species together would be unstoppable. The Council would never be threatened again. Or they'll betray us the first chance they get, Dongyun countered. They're killers. They've murdered billions. So have we, Yuna said quietly. In our history, Earth's nations fought terrible wars against each other. Then they became allies. Why can't we do the same with the Vrkesh? The argument went on for weeks. Meanwhile, the war continued. The Council fleet pushed toward the Vrkesh homeworld of Krathmore. Every battle was harder than the last. The Vrkesh were falling back to defend their most important worlds, concentrating their forces. Admiral Minho knew the final battle was coming. The one that would end the war, one way or another. He was promoted to Supreme Admiral, given command of all Council military forces, the first human to hold such a position, but the promotion felt hollow. He had lost so many people. His original ship, the Resolute Dawn, hundreds of Marines who had served under him, friends he had known for years. Is it worth it? Commander Suji asked him one night. I don't know, Minho admitted. The Vrkesh homeworld of Krathmore was a harsh planet, all red rock and fierce winds. Admiral Minho Park stood on the surface, looking up at the sky filled with ships. Council vessels and Vrkesh warships maintaining an uneasy truce while the trial by combat took place. One wrong move and the battle would resume. Billions would die. Minho wore light armor and carried 2 weapons, a human combat knife and a Vrkesh energy blade he had taken from a captured officer. Around him, representatives from every species watched. This wasn't just a fight. It was a statement about the future of the galaxy. Across the arena, Warlord Krathvan emerged. He was massive, easily 8 feet tall, covered in scars from a lifetime of battles. He carried a traditional Vrkesh warblade, a weapon that could cut through armor like paper. He looked at Minho and smiled. You're smaller than I expected, Krathvan called out. Are all humans so tiny? Big enough, Minho replied. Ambassador Yuna stood in the observation area with the other dignitaries. She looked nervous. Beside her, Admiral Dongyun watched with a tactical eye, analyzing both fighters. General Nari had wanted to be the champion, but the Vrkesh had specifically requested Minho, the man who had won at Nefara Prime and Sanctuary Station. The man who symbolized humanity's rise. He's going to die, a Morgathi ambassador whispered. That warlord is twice his size. Don't count him out yet, Dongyun said quietly. The combat began without ceremony. Krathvin charged forward, his blade swinging in a wide arc. Minho didn't try to block. He couldn't. The warlord was too strong. Instead, he dove to the side, rolling across the rocky ground and coming up in a crouch. Krathvin laughed. Running already? Positioning, Minho corrected. The fight became a dance. The warlord had power and reach. Minho had speed and adaptability. Every time Krathvin attacked, Minho was somewhere else. He used the terrain, jumping over rocks, sliding under strikes, making the larger warrior work for every swing. Stand and fight, Krathvin roared. I am fighting, Minho said. Just not the way you expect, that was the key. Vrakesh combat was direct, honorable in its own way. Two warriors testing their strength against each other. But human combat was about winning. Minho didn't try to match the warlord's power. He exploited weaknesses. When Krathvin overextended a strike, Minho darted in and slashed at the back of his knee. When the warlord turned too fast, Minho was already behind him, scoring another hit. Small cuts. Nothing fatal. But they added up. After 10 minutes, Krathvin was bleeding from a dozen wounds. He was slowing down, getting frustrated. You fight like a coward, he shouted. I fight like a human, Minho replied. He was breathing hard, exhausted, but still moving. We don't care about honor. We care about survival. Krathvin changed tactics. Instead of wide strikes, he used short, controlled attacks. He stopped trying to overpower Minho and started trying to outthink him. The warlord was learning, adapting. That was dangerous. The two fighters circled each other. Blood dripped from Krathvin's wounds. Sweat poured down Minho's face. This wasn't going to end quickly. It was going to come down to who made the first major mistake. Then Krathvin did something unexpected. He threw his blade away. No more weapons, he said. Hand to hand. Warrior to warrior. Unless you're afraid? Minho understood. This was a test. The warlord was giving up his advantage to see what Minho would do. Would he keep his weapons and win dishonorably? Or would he accept the challenge? Minho dropped his blades. Interesting choice, Krathvin said with approval. They crashed together. Two warriors fighting with fists and feet and knees. Minho used every technique he had learned. Boxing, wrestling, martial arts from a dozen human traditions. But Krathvin was strong, absorbing punches that would drop a normal fighter. His return strikes felt like being hit by machinery. Minho's ribs cracked. His left eye swelled shut, but he kept fighting. He targeted the warlord's existing wounds, the cuts he had made earlier. He used joint locks and pressure points. He fought dirty because that's what humans did. Krathvin respected it. Even as Minho gouged at his eyes, even as he struck at the throat and groin, the warlord seemed almost happy. This was what he wanted, a true test. The fight lasted 40 minutes. Both warriors were barely standing when it ended. Minho caught Krathvin with a combination strike that a human boxer had used centuries ago on Earth. A jab to distract, a hook to the body, then an uppercut that caught the warlord under the chin. The big warrior staggered, dropped to one knee. Minho stood over him, fists raised, ready to continue. Waiting, Krathvin looked up at him. Blood covered his face. One eye was swollen shut, but he was smiling. Enough, he said clearly. You win, human. You have proven your strength. The crowd watching was silent. Then Ambassador Yuna started clapping. Others joined in. Even some of the Vrakesh observers began a rhythmic chanting that sounded like approval. Minho offered his hand to help Krathvin up. The warlord took it. Both warriors stood together, exhausted and wounded but alive. What happens now? Minho asked. Now, Krathvin said, my people serve yours. You have shown yourself superior. We follow the strong. It is our way. The words echoed across the galaxy. The Vrakesh Dominion, the aggressive empire that had terrorized the Council, was now aligned with humanity. Not as slaves or conquered people, but as warriors who had found someone worthy of following. The aftermath took months to sort out. Ambassador Yuna led negotiations that transformed galactic politics. Earth was elevated to permanent Council leadership, not just in military matters, but in all matters. High Counselor Vethmora stepped down voluntarily, recommending Yuna as her replacement. Yuna became the first human High Counselor, leading a galaxy that had laughed at humanity just 2 years earlier. The Vrakesh integration was controversial. Many council species feared them, remembered the deaths they had caused. But Warlord Krathavan kept his word. The Vrakesh warriors formed new military units working alongside human forces. They called themselves the Vanguard Legions, elite troops that served as the galaxy's rapid response force. Admiral Minho became supreme commander of all council defense forces. His job was to integrate Vrakesh tactics and human strategies into a unified military doctrine. It was challenging work. Most species still preferred civilized warfare, but they were slowly learning. After seeing what happened when soft tactics faced hard enemies, they understood the need to adapt. Admiral Dongyun retired from active service. He accepted a teaching position at Earth's New War College, where officers from every species came to study human military history. The classes covered everything from ancient Earth battles to modern space warfare. Alien cadets learned about concepts their species had forgotten or never developed. Asymmetric warfare, psychological operations, total war doctrine. Dr. Hana Lee, whose warnings about the Vrakesh had been ignored, became head of xenopsychology for the entire council. Her work helped different species understand each other better, preventing future conflicts. She also studied the Vrakesh, documenting their culture before it completely merged with the council. General Narration remained on active duty, training ground forces across the galaxy. Her defensive sanctuary station was studied in every military academy. She turned the station itself into a monument, preserving parts of it as a reminder of what had been sacrificed. Sergeant Sungho became an instructor, teaching special operations tactics to mixed species teams. Students called him the hardest teacher in the military. He called them soft and made them run until they understood what combat really meant. Lieutenant Gina continued flying, but now she led a mixed squadron of human and Vrakesh pilots. The combination was devastating. Human creativity and Vrakesh aggression made them the most feared fighter unit in the galaxy. 5 years after the war ended, a new threat emerged. An invasion force from outside the galaxy, species unknown, technology unfamiliar. They arrived at the edge of council space with 1,000 warships and a simple message: surrender or be destroyed. The council didn't panic. They didn't deliberate. They didn't try to negotiate. Within 2 hours, Admiral Minho launched a counteroffensive. Human ships and Vrakesh warriors, council vessels, and integrated tactics. They hit the invaders with everything they had learned. Ambush tactics, psychological warfare, strategic strikes at command and supply. The invaders expected civilized resistance. They found total war. The enemy retreated in 3 weeks, having lost half their fleet. They never came back. Word spread through other galaxies. There was a region of space where a species called humans led a warrior alliance. A place where combat wasn't civilized or limited. A place where defeat meant total defeat. Other galaxies learned to avoid council space. The reputation spread. The galaxy that humanity had joined was now humanity's to protect. In the council chambers, now led by High Counselor Yuna Kim, ambassadors from 12 species voted on new military protocols. Mandatory training for all species. Aggressive defense doctrines. Preemptive strike authorization when threats emerged. Laws that would have been unthinkable before the war. One young Telnorian ambassador stood to object. These measures turn us into warriors. We're meant to be civilized. We are civilized, Yuna replied. But civilization doesn't mean being weak. It means being strong enough to protect what matters. The galaxy tried peace without strength. It didn't work.